You've been sharing information about the production line for the compact car even before, saying that you are seeing signs that it's actually moving forward in Giga Texas.
We've been seeing a lot of materials, a lot of equipment, some robots, some large other machinery. There's been a lot of air filtration systems that have been going into the second floor. They've been expanding the 4680 production capability. Really tells a lot of the story, and it was pretty obvious that the amount of production capacity that they were building into Giga Texas was far and away more than what they needed just for the Cybertruck, and it had to be for something else.
Tesla invited hundreds of people to a Cybertruck delivery event last week, but even more striking, they allowed and even encouraged their visitors to take video and photos of the production lines. So I invited Joe Tegtmeyer to join us today as our guest. He's one of, if not the most knowledgeable about the development of the Giga Texas factory, as he watches closely and has taken actual aerial drone footage pretty well every 2 days since the factory was built. Today, we're going to watch the videos he took of the Cybertruck production line and the factory itself. He'll share his thoughts on the Cybertruck construction, the factory production lines and overall setup, and his observations about the employees and leadership that he spoke with, and of course, new details about Giga Texas itself. Joe has a successful YouTube channel under his name, Joe Tegtmeyer. Welcome, Joe. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you very much, Herbert. I appreciate it. And it's a little while since we last talked. Last time we were talking about Giga Texas and Giga Mexico. So a lot more to talk about today, some new events.
Yeah, new events. Love to always get your feedback because you are on the ground. You've been just your YouTube channel, you always show some breaking information. And one of the things that I wanted to start off with was the compact car, because I understand you've been sharing information about the production line for the compact car even before, saying that you are seeing signs that it's actually moving forward in Giga Texas. And then today, Sandy Munro had an interview with Elon Musk, and Elon confirmed that they're well ahead in their progress of the compact car. Tell me how you found out this information even before all this.
Well, maybe late last year, I started seeing some of the permits that were filed with the city of Austin that had to do with the construction that's going on in the inside. The last time we talked, we had kind of referenced what we all saw at the Cyber Rodeo, and there was a lot of areas inside the factory that were just basically empty during that event. And in the time between April 2022 and now, the amount of work, the amount of construction, the amount of rework, and just reconfiguring the factory has been, nothing short of amazing to be watching. And late last year, there was a bunch of permits that started to be filed that referred to setting up Giga Texas's General Assembly Lines 2 and 3. Now, just a reminder, the General Assembly Line 1 is the current one that's in place to build the Model Ys, and that has been operational now for some time. But to see that they were going to be building on an additional 2 production lines was pretty interesting when I saw those permits. And then over the ensuing months, we've been seeing a lot of materials, a lot of equipment, some robots, some large other machinery. There's been a lot of air filtration systems that have been going into the second floor of the factory. They've been expanding the 4680 production capability, basically doubling what they originally had planned for Giga Texas. They've been adding giga presses and modifying the casting machine area. They've added stamping. They've increased their paint system, the modular paint systems. They've expanded the drive line. There's just been probably an underappreciated amount of expansion work and changes that have been going on in Giga Texas. And then along the way, you start noticing the equipment that is being delivered. And throughout my time doing that, whenever I've noticed something like, for example, the Trumpf, that's TRUMPF, True Bend Machinery, in Sandy Munro's video, they actually kind of talked about that. That's the machinery that Lars mentioned that is actually responsible for bending the stainless steel. I started seeing that being delivered and installed back in May, and I did a kind of a detail on that. So just watching the equipment, watching what's being installed, where it's being installed, really tells a lot of the story. And it was pretty obvious that the amount of production capacity that they were building into Giga Texas was far and away more than what they needed just for the Cybertruck, and it had to be for something else. And just talking to people on the ground as well, it was pretty obvious that more is going on inside the factory. And it was really nice to see the Sandy Moreau video today where Elon was mentioning that. And he had said that the development of the next gen vehicle is much farther along than I think people expected. I think his words were something along the line, it's quite advanced. And I think that's both for the product itself, the design, and all of the parts that would be needed for the vehicle and how it looks and operates. But a big part, probably the most important part, is the machine that builds the machine, and that's going to be here at Giga Texas. He also confirmed that Giga Mexico is going to have this line, but Giga Texas is going to be the first. And in Walter Isaacson's book, he also had mentioned some of the reasons for that. And one of the biggest is that the engineers and the people that would be responsible for building that product and building the production lines are already here at Giga Texas. And it would be a lot more efficient to do it here versus trying to have them move down to Giga Mexico and do that while they're also building Giga Mexico. So it kind of helps speed that product to market a lot more than what most people would expect. So that's kind of how I've been watching this, and kind of aware that that there was something more than just the Cybertruck going on here.
Yeah, you got very lucky because I remember you were trying to figure out how do you go to Giga Mexico to track that. You didn't need to.
Exactly, it's all right here.
You were able to track it for the last several months. You were here seeing signs, and you thought, okay, this is more than just Cybertruck.
Right.
That's interesting, and it turned out you're correct. They've made huge improvements. What do you take for the Elon's comment when he said that, that the production line for the compact car is revolutionary? This is something that no one has seen before. Did you take that? Did you hear? What I heard was this may not just be the unboxed model. This may include robots or something like that. Was there any signs about this in any of your hints that you saw?
There are a few things, and maybe as we go through my video at some point we'll get to it. But I think general overall impressions of the Cybertruck line that would probably relate to that are one, the sheer level of automation that already is present for the Cybertruck line. I knew that there was a lot. I think a lot of people had heard about that. Ironically, there were some people who thought that maybe the Cybertruck would be more hand built or so forth, but the walk through the production line, the access that Tesla gave, which I do want to just say thank you very much to Tesla for giving us just unparalleled access, not only to be able to video and take pictures and do videos that we release out to the public about what the production line looks, but also being able to talk to many of the employees. There was pretty much no subject off the line, so it was really great to see that. But just walking through there and seeing the level of manufacturing that is done by robots was just incredible. And I think that is a direct indication of what we're going to see for the next gen vehicle. They had some displays for us as well. That was great, so we could get up close and take a look at that. And one of the areas which when we go through the video, we might be able to see, but there was a display of the Cybertruck, and it had the sub-assemblies for the front and the rear suspension put onto the basic shell. And that basic shell is built essentially of three large parts: a front and rear casting, and then a central passenger compartment that is using stamped steel and welded together. And those three together made the bulk of the structure of the Cybertruck. And on those sub-assemblies on the front one, as you're looking at it, you could clearly see the drive-by-wire steering. You could see the motor, the suspension, the tie rods, everything that makes the front suspension work. And all of that is now essentially without mechanical connections directly to it. So you don't have a steering column for the steering. It's all done by drive-by-wire. So it makes a construction process extremely modular, almost like Legos. But there was one major component that was still there, still present, that I think we're probably going to see in the next generation vehicle that's going to make that that unboxing or a new way of building a vehicle possible, and that is brake-by-wire. So the Cybertruck still had a traditional anti-lock brake module. It had the tubes that have the hydraulic fluid that have to run the length of the vehicle to go to the brake calipers. All of that is still present, and it complicates to some degree making a unboxed vehicle because you have to run all of that through a vehicle that already has been put in place. If they can go to the next step, which would be brake-by-wire, then you have no component that has to run the length of a vehicle. You don't have to have the whole vehicle put together as a one unit. And that would actually free up to that unboxing idea. And the unboxing idea is kind of like the Lego approach, where you build certain sections. With the Cybertruck, you had the front subassembly, which was everything. You had the rear subassembly, which was everything. You have the battery pack that had the most of the interior, so that's one subassembly. And then you had the subassembly for the heating, ventilation, air conditioning that would go, under the windshield, underneath the dashboard. Those four main subassemblies plus the structure of the vehicle is all that goes into the Cybertruck. So if you imagine that to the next level, where we don't have wires, we don't have tubes, we don't have anything that has to go through a completed video or a completed vehicle, then you can just take that subassembly to the next level, and you can just build everything outside and then just essentially snap it together, and you have a vehicle. So I think that's what we're going to see.
For sure. So let's watch some of your video, because we need to show some of the things you found. So let's take a look at this. This is, first, before we get to the Cybertruck production line, the employees you spoke to, I want to hear more about the Giga Texas itself, because you are pointing out that there's areas in Giga Texas that's actually lots of space. And where would the Gen 3 compact car production line be? People are asking that. Do you want to direct me where I go here on your video?
Okay, sure. With this, what we're seeing here is just it's called a grid coordinate system. It's how Giga Texas is laid out. The section that I'm showing here with the highlighted red and yellow is the area that the Cybertruck is probably about 80% of the Cybertruck construction happens. The purple that you see overlaid there is just the ground level of what we saw during Cybertruck delivery event. So all of the images that you'll see through the video were in that purple section. And if you want to stop this video right now, what I'm trying to show, this is back in June of 2021, when Giga Texas was being constructed, obviously. What I've shown in the purple, and that purple would extend a little bit farther into the structure. I couldn't make that drawing, but this is on the ground level what everybody saw and what most people would be referring to, and what we'll be referring to here in the video. The larger section closer to the bottom is where the actual keynote took place, and the kind of the irregular section that's sort of sticking out from that bottom part is where the end of line tunnel, where Elon drove the Cybertruck through, and you had all those lights. That's essentially where the end of the Cybertruck production line would be. And then from that point, the vehicles would exit the factory and then be prepared for transportation. And that purple line going up towards the top, this is from the south looking to the north, and is sort of the opposite direction of way the Cybertruck production line happens. It starts actually in the middle of the building, and it works its way towards the south. Everything on the left-hand side of the screen, where you see the yellow and red crane and some of the steel items, all of that, some of it has some related space for the Cybertruck production. It's also some of that just-in-time warehousing. So as the trailers are brought from the warehouse on wheels yards on site over to the receiving doors, they're unloaded to that area. Some of that's put on racks, some of it's used right away. But that's pretty much that logistics warehouse section of the production line on that part of the building. We get to where the purple is, and that's where the Cybertruck line, the general assembly, that would also include the subassembly line, the final assembly line, and end of line, is all in that purple section. And then you look at that and you're like, well, that's only a small fraction of what Giga Texas is. So what is all that other space on the other side? And, so all of that other space on the other side, and all the way through, there's three main floors, but there's also different mezzanine levels that they've added, and there's been all
Hmm.
kinds of equipment, machinery, uh, other production capabilities added through all of those levels. So it's a very vertically integrated section. So all of that space on the right is being developed now, and that's where some more of the general assembly and final assembly of Cybertruck takes place, but also some of that is for General Assembly Line 3. And General Assembly Line 3 is the area where that next generation vehicle production line
Okay.
is being set up.
Somewhere in
And
here. Okay.
so, just looking at this image, what I'm trying to show is how much space is still available
Right.
for expansion for Giga Texas. And then that long open section with the green walls, that's been added on obviously since then. But what they added is they doubled the size of the drive line. That's where they make the motors and those kinds of things, the inverters and stuff like that. And then the south part of it, they've added another complete stamping section. It's called Stamping 2, and they've
Yeah.
added at least one large AIDA. That's not EDRA, it's AIDA. It's a stamping machine that helps stamp out a lot of the parts that are used for the Cybertruck. And then beyond that, the structure that you see is body in white, also as part of stamping. But the body in white is where they weld in the stamped parts to make that passenger shell. Also, some of the inner liners for the stainless steel body parts, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, they've been adding in TKS modular paint systems into that area. Plus, there's been permits for everything from domestic cold water to drainage systems to electrical systems. All of that area of the factory is what I think is used to take that welded
Hmm.
passenger cabin and some of the other inner panels for the stainless steel, and they run it through an e-coating system, and that basically does the corrosion resistance. It gives it that black color that you see, and we'll see here in some of the videos of the interior when you open up the doors. All of that has been added in since the Cyber Rodeo, and that's what I'm trying to give you an idea is just the amount of expansion that has happened and is continuing to happen to support not only Cybertruck but also for the next generation vehicle, and who knows what else after that.
Fantastic. So lots of room available. You showed how it's made up. Let's go into the factory. Let's take a look at
Okay.
the actual
Oh, and
production line.
one other thing I
Yeah.
want to point out, and it was brought up at the Sandy Moreau interview with Elon Musk,
Yes.
is they're extending the length of the building. So it's being
Oh,
extended another 400 feet or approximately 120 meters. That's underway right now. They're actually installing the steel superstructure. They've
wow.
gotten most of the footings done, the perimeter grade beam,
Yeah.
and that's going to extend the building now to about 44 to 4,500 feet in length. So it's going to add maybe what is that 20% more to the size of the factory, and that's being built right
Why
now.
are they doing that if they haven't yet take advantage of the whole surface area? Are they just expecting this production forecast?
Well, when it first became back in July of 2021, Elon put on at that time a tweet saying that the building was going to be expanded, and I think people thought, yeah, whatever, but that was true to the word that that was the plan, and there was some other references here and there, but late last year, the permits for that were filed, and the work started to happen, and they started breaking up all the concrete on the south end that they had laid. The joke is it's not Giga Texas if they're not laying and then breaking up concrete and putting some more
At the
in.
same time.
So
Keep going.
so that's the thing. But they
Yeah.
started doing the actual removal of the concrete late last year, and then the construction is going on. To plug, I guess, my video is the 3rd of January of this year. I did a full in-depth, detailed discussion about the extension, and most of everything that I said, including my rough attempts at renderings of what the building looks like,
Turned out
is
to be the
coming
right
to
thing.
pass. So almost a year ago, this was in place, and it's just been continuing. At that time, the answer was most of it was going to be administrative kind of things, maybe adding not really a design studio, but studios for them to work on projects and future ideas. And I think that's still, for the most part, valid, especially when you see the huge windows that they're already putting in. I mean,
Mhm.
the steel structure is just steel, and they're adding steel to it, and they have giant window panes already put onto the steel. It's incredible. But you know, sometime this year, a decision was made to make sure that for sure they're going to bring the next generation vehicle here.
Yeah,
So I don't
this is
know
it.
if maybe that changed to some degree what they're doing with the extension, or if they're just going to continue with that extension and then use some of the space that they have now for the administrative and the headquarters offices, and then use that for production at some point. I could see that happening as well.
Could it be for the bot?
You know, Giga Texas has so much capacity. Who knows what they're going to build here?
You better keep a eye out because for sure the bot is being made in Giga Texas. He needs to be overwatching it just like he is Gen 3.
Who knows?
Let's take
Maybe
a
the
look at
bot will be on the Gen 2, the
that's
next generation line.
that is what I'm suggesting, what he said there. So yeah, where should I jump in your video here to show people
um,
the production line?
well, if you want to just stop here, this is as good as any place to discuss. This is actually a display that they had for us. And by the way, I want to make it clear that we saw the production line, we saw the robots moving, we saw a lot of activity, but everything was done in a demo mode. So they weren't actually producing the Cybertrucks while we were walking the line, but the line was operational in the sense that
All right. Yeah.
they were making them, but they just didn't do that while we were there, and that's understandable. But they had this display here, and there you can see there's a couple of Cybertrucks. There's one in the upper left, and it's more of just the basic shell, and kind of highlights what I was saying is it's a front and rear casting and a central stamped and welded shell. They bolt those together, and that's the bulk of the vehicle. The one in the middle is, again, it's a display, so some of the stuff is a little bit out of order, like you wouldn't see the tires at this point, but it gives you a sense of how they take this shell that you can see here. You can see that front casting. If you look closely, you can see where it's bolted together to that central passenger shell. That rear kind of wall is part of that passenger shell, and then just right behind it is the stamping. And this is a good view here. If you want to just stop this for a second, I had mentioned to you that they had just basically four major sub-assemblies. One of them is the battery pack with the interior. And for this demo, that's already in. One of them is the front suspension sub-assembly, and you can see it here. All of this is assembled outside of the vehicle or put it on kind of, I don't know, specific, almost like plates that have all the mounts, and they'll put all the various parts onto the mount. All of this is robotically done, by the way. And then as the sub-assemblies go through the line, the robots assemble the various parts so that by the time they're done through that part of the line, the whole sub-assembly has everything you need. And then it's just lifted up, bolted on here, and it's done. The HVAC and the air conditioning is not attached at this demo part, but it would be. Another thing, if you want to stop the video for a second, that I found amazing. If you've ever been to a normal car manufacturing plant, and I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of them, one of the last things that they do is put the windows in, the windshield and so forth. In the Cybertruck, it's one of the first things. As soon as they join the castings and the shell together, the next thing is they put the windshield, the glass roof, and that glass rear window in. And they can do that because of the production process they have. Right after that, they put the dashboard in from the inside. A robot does that. They put the seats in the back because they hang on that rear wall. And then after that, they just put the structural pack with the rest of the interior, including the center console, the seats, the carpet, the under lining. Everything is just lifted into the vehicle. They bolt it in, and the structural pack provides structural strength to the shell, and the interior is virtually done. The only thing that's not done here is the A, B, and C pillar finishing panels on the inside. And again, this is done very quickly on the production line, very early on it. And then after that, they put the rear and front suspension subassembly in, bolted it from the bottom, and then they put that HVAC subassembly on in the inside. And The only thing that's missing is the stainless steel shell, the what you see when you look at the Cybertruck. And as we go around here, this is something good. If you want to just stop it right about here, that would be great. Um, the the stainless steel exterior is composed of two different parts. You have the stainless steel exterior that you see. You have an inner stamped metal piece that is bonded adhesively to that stainless steel. And again, robots do that. That
Mm.
inner shell has all the mounting brackets and bolts already attached to it. Then the robots pick up that assembly and they place it against the casting just like this. And another robot reaches around on this side because you can see how open it is, and they're able to bolt it from the back and then along the sides, again, all robotically. And once they do that, then you have the entire shell, and then the bed liner is one large piece. It's I think it's called
Snaps in.
SMC, but it's like basically a big plastic piece, and it's just placed in the middle. So
Mhm.
if you were to take that plastic, tub out of the bed, this is what you would see.
Mhm.
So everything is just bolted right to the castings. And one other thing I just want to, if you stop it here, um, the it's interesting in the design. The lighter tan is the big casting for the rear, and that's what the motor and the suspension, everything is bolted
Yeah.
to, and you can see that in the middle. The darker gold pieces, I call them the sails that are
Yeah.
bolted on top of the castings. They are a huge part of the structure of the vehicle. The two that connect to the passenger cab takes the vertical loads of the suspension, and it makes it into like a triangle. If you ever see like a truss bridge, they use
Mhm.
triangles because that's the strongest way of constructing. And that sail, the casting, and the back part of that passenger cabin make that triangle, and that gives it an extremely rigid structure. And then the last two closest to us, that gives the structure for the tailgate and the rear of the bed. And all of
Yeah.
this, those five pieces bolted together make the entire structure of the rear of the car. It's incredible.
Mm. Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
So anyway,
Let's take a
one
look at
other thing
the
on this picture, I was
yeah.
just say, people want to know if I was camping in the back, can I get HVAC or that? You can't. The glass is fixed, and those vents that you see are
Yeah.
just part of the
It's not a
flow-through
pass-through.
ventilation.
Mm.
So you
Not a
can't get
pass-through,
that.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's take a look at the actual production line itself. Where do I
Okay.
go here?
Well, if you want to stop here, this is another great indication of the vertical production capacity or capability that they have built here at Giga Texas. They have a lot of these lifts systems. Some are larger, some are smaller, some takes just parts, some of them take full bodies, as you see. And this this line that we see here, this on the ground floor, it's about roughly 2 columns wide, so it's about, let's call it 100 feet wide.
Mm.
And it again gives you just the idea of the small section of Giga Texas. But it's also 3 stories tall, in some cases 4 stories if you go to the mezzanine. So they use these to lift the bodies, lift to the parts, and they go from one side to the other. If you notice on the left, the cars were facing south. And
Mm.
on the right, if we go on different parts of the production line, the cars are facing to the north.
Mhm.
So at some point, the vehicles are lifted and moved from one side to the other, depending on what they need to do throughout this entire line. So it's not just what you see here going in one direction. It actually goes in some sections 2 directions and up 3 floors.
And up
And
3 floors too. That's amazing.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. The
Wow.
doors themselves, that inner and outer bonding is done on the third floor, right towards the end of the building, and
Wow.
also the same thing for the panels. And if you want to stop it here real quick, but all of that, the bonding of the and the bending of the stainless steel is done on the third floor, and essentially the doors, the fenders, all that stuff are done up there. Some other things are done, and then they bring them down to the ground floor for installation. Um,
Okay.
this,
This
what you see here,
orderly.
this is, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
No, no, no. Keep going. Keep going.
But this is that plate I was discussing. You see the red items sticking up. They take all the parts. In this case, you have the calipers, the rotors, the rear steering knuckle. and they place them on this, and it goes through the line. And as it goes, more parts are added. They're assembled. So eventually you have one complete subassembly. And this particular one is the rear subassembly. And once that's completed, it's just
So
lifted
wait,
up and bolted
this is one
into the
car?
car.
This is one car?
Yeah, that's
or
one
see
car.
rear of an assembly
The
of a
rear.
car, and then these are just, and then things keep plugging on to these things?
Yeah, yeah, they'll put like the rear steering rack, they'll put the motor, they'll put the shocks,
Nice.
they'll put all of it together. And then when it's done, it's one assembly.
Yeah.
It's one of those
Gotcha.
4 major sub-assemblies that just are
Right.
put into the car. So you can imagine with the next gen vehicle, what they could do with this at the next level.
Small. Yeah, gotcha. So show me
You
the
know,
automation. Where's the automation? Is this a good part?
I don't know. If you go a little bit farther in the video, let's see.
There.
Here's some, and this is actually good for a second. If you want to pause it for a moment,
Yeah.
what you see here, this is the front fender. This is front left fender, and you can see the stainless steel, and you can see how it's bent in various places. That's all done on the 3rd floor. And in Sandy Monroe's video, he actually had an extended section where they talked about those true bend machines that are used to make the stainless steel. So that would be a great video to watch on that. But this is that stainless steel with the inner shell bonded to it, ready for assembly into the vehicle. And if you let the video run for a second, I'm not sure if this is where I show the crashed one or not, but okay, we'll go over here. This is the robots that I'll try to get into this cage there. And you see some of the robots working right now. And essentially they just pick up that assembly, that fender in this case, and they'll move it over and they'll position it right onto the casting, and then it's bolted on, and then the entire exterior is done. There's 13 stainless steel parts that I counted on the vehicle. And this machine, you can kind of see through that plastic. The one on the left here is just going to show you the rear. It's the same thing. The rear fender is a stainless steel exterior with that inner panel. They have the bolts on it, and then it's just affixed directly to the castings. There's nothing else between the exterior skin that you see and the castings. And
Joe, I was going to ask you. Yeah, Joe, let me ask you a question, because this is the thing I've been wanting to know. What you saw with the Cybertruck production, how much of that is going to be transferred to the Gen 3? Is the Gen 3, the compact car, Model 2, is it going to be based on a Cybertruck something? Or is this Cybertruck production line only for Cybertruck and maybe a Cybervan, but the Gen 3 is going to be completely different production line?
It'll be a completely different, separate production line. They won't share any of this line for the new one. But the techniques, the robots, everything, that plate for the rear suspension, all of that will definitely be used in various ways into the new one. But like we talked about the brake system, they'll probably have brake by wire. And once they do that, they can probably just do sections of the vehicle, maybe the entire front by itself away from the car. So it would have all of everything, the lights, all that stuff done, and then they bring them together and make the car. And
so
you
the
don't
interior
have to have
might be the same. Sorry. The interior might be the same, but you don't think it's going to use the steel outer body and the...
I don't know. I know that they're going to want to keep it inexpensive for not only for manufacturing, but also for people to be able to afford it. One of the highest cost things that you do when you're producing a vehicle is paint. And it's not just paint, it's the e-coating, it's the primer, it's the robots, it's the material, it's getting it perfectly right. One of the things with the Cybertruck, which is different than other car companies, is when they make the body in white, they usually have the doors on it, and then they paint it, and then they take the doors off. It goes through somewhere of the other factory, and then at some point they have to match those same ones up. And it's important because the paint colors can vary slightly. With the Cybertruck, the only thing that matters is the interior match. Is it a white one or a black? So it doesn't matter which door that they pick. And just imagine the simplicity that's involved with that. So if you could replicate something similar to the cheaper car, you definitely cut a big part of your cost for materials, the time for the paint, and also just having to manage where are the doors that match this particular car.
Well, I heard that steel is cheaper than aluminum, although not right now. Apparently,
Hmm.
Jeff last showed me a graph that showed me this cost of steel has skyrocketed 20% since
Yeah.
the announcement of Cybertruck in 2019. But if if I was going to be in a robo taxi and it was made of steel and it's indestructible, I would feel much safer,
Hmm.
and you don't have to do the paint.
Well, we're also seeing with the Cybertruck the options of wraps. So that gives
Okay.
you a lot of options to, if you wanted to personalize it, I want it to be purple. So you get a purple wrap and you don't have to go through the manufacturing process of having purple paint, you know?
So,
So,
anyways, that's
yeah.
why I'm hoping that the Model 3, the Model 2 is going to
Yeah.
actually be based on the Cybertruck
I don't
here.
know. There are some complications with using like a stainless steel though, and that has to do with the machinery and the techniques to bend it to the shape that you want. So that will have to be part of that calculation, and it will to some degree drive how it looks, what the shape of it looks like.
It's gonna look cool. Okay, let's continue looking at your video here. So let's just go check it out here. Yeah, what's the thing that you saw that you were not expecting? Because you obviously know so much about what's going on here. What was there anything that you saw that you just blown away, did not know?
Um, well, it's not something I didn't know that we had been hearing about it, but there were a lot of employees that had been brought over from Giga Shanghai that I
Wow.
saw, and I would
Yeah.
imagine you'd see more of them. And I think they were brought over to help with getting this production line up and running. And they've obviously shown expertise in getting lines up and running pretty quickly. And
Yeah.
I talked to Tom Zhu a little bit as well, and I think his influence brought some of that as well.
Mm.
Um, Also, I talked to a lot of employees from the top, mid level, and at the lower level, and I would say almost universally, they were so excited about what they do. They believed in the mission. They believed in what they were doing. I heard people talking about, hey, we could do this better, and I can't wait till we do it. All that, but bottom line, they were just thrilled that the world is now able to see what they've been working on for a long time, and in some cases in a positive light, because there's been a lot of, where's my Cybertruck? It's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of them, in a way, feel relieved that they've been able to now show everybody what they're doing. And I think part of the reason why Tesla let us do the images and the video is because it speaks volumes to where they are actually at and what they have done. And they were so prideful on that. And I think rightfully so.
Do you do you believe that maybe they downplayed, or what's your production levels that you think that's going to happen in 2024?
Um, I think the caution on the ramp's going to take some time is valid. And, I saw your interview with Jeff yesterday talking about the logistics that need to be done, the supply chain, and that everything from tires to interior, all that stuff. I think they have a decent handle on that part. It's just going to take time for the suppliers to catch up. I don't know if most people know, but within about a 20, 25-mile radius of Giga Texas, most of the suppliers are there. So it's
Mm.
not like they have to go very far. They've been working on this for quite some time. So, I think they will get that. There's just going to be bumps along the road that would be normal for bringing on a new production line. The other thing that Jeff didn't talk about, I think, is just as important is some of the critical limiting factors for making the Cybertruck at the factory.
Mm.
One of which is making castings. You have to
Mhm.
have two castings per each vehicle. So if you made 400 a day, that's 200 vehicles if you have a front and a rear. And right now, they're doing a lot of work to bring both of the 9,000 ton Giga presses up and running fully. They're not quite there yet. I
I
think
see.
sometime in the first quarter that will be there. So when I'm doing my drone flying, I'm looking at the castings not just because they're shiny objects, but I'm trying to get an idea of not only how many they're
Mm.
making, and not all of them are going to go outside. Some of them are just going to go on the inside. but also the front and rear. And right now you tend to see groupings of just front or just rears. And I think that's an indication of the production that they're
Right.
doing inside the casting machine structure. So that is critical. And how many they can make in an hour, and how what the reject rates are, and how they can ramp that from what they have. That's going to be the biggest indicator for the Cybertruck. So you know by the end of this year, who knows? It'll be a couple hundred, maybe. I don't know. But next year, I think, probably by the end of the quarter, 1,000 to maybe, if they're lucky, 2,000 a day or a week would not be out of the realm of possibilities. And that's somewhere around 50-ish thousand a
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
then the next quarter, they'll ramp beyond that and beyond that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So very likely 70,000, 100,000, maybe for lucky by the end of the
Yeah.
year.
I was
Because,
asked I was asked how many Cybertrucks do I think will be in hands of customers at the end of next year?
yeah.
And that's a very difficult answer to come up with, but I would not be surprised if it was about 80,000.
Nice. Okay. That's what I was trying to get you to say. Thank you.
Okay, but I may be wrong. I'm just a drone
course.
pilot. So.
Oh, well, you've just showed the entire video. You know a lot. Now, Sandy Monroe said that his calculation, he's the expert. He's the absolute expert. He said he's almost always correct. He said 60 Cybertrucks every hour, which means one Cybertruck every 60 seconds. And right now, the Model Y, Model 3 is coming out at every 43 seconds.
Right.
They're not going to get there, but one every 6, Elon did not counter him. That's
Right.
pretty good. That's a good.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to complete the thought, which is what he said, was just that the rate limiting step is not the automation, which is what they've got working now. It's the supply. Every once in a while, you got a supply that's missing, but once they get that smoothed out, it's going to go.
Right. I agree with that. And I think there was some confusion whether or not he meant jobs as in specific tasks or vehicles, but he clarified that in the Monroe
Yes.
video. And so I don't think there's any doubt now. He was talking about numbers of vehicles per unit of time. And he thought that it was set up so that when fully ramped and everything, 60 per hour, 1 per minute is a realistic target. And I think that would be needed to hit that 250,000 per year or maybe more target that they are looking
eventually. Yeah, gotcha. What else about the employees and leadership? You spoke to Tom Ju. You said that you saw a lot of Giga Shanghai folks there. Anything else about that? Did you speak to other employees?
Well, I did. Some of it had to do with I talked to people that actually are part of the construction of Giga Texas, and I don't know how important that is for this particular video, but they confirmed things like what was going on with the solar panel on the roof, what their plans were, how they operate. They talked about the mega packs and the commissioning and working with ERCOT. I was able to ask people about the main entrance because the stone glass trapezoid they have looks like it's been having some issues, and some of my viewers have been thinking they're going to have to rip it out and fix it and everything. And the answer, funny. I know. Well, I mean, they've been rebuilding the thing so often, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But the answer is actually important for production in Giga Texas. And the reason why I say that is the answer of what's going on with that shiny black trapezoid is this is a construction zone. There is a ton of dust, and it is literally everywhere. Whenever I finish flying, my drone is covered with dust. So I have to clean it off all the time. So it gets onto that shiny surface with moisture, and then it kind of streaks, and it looks like something seeping up from underneath. So the answer is it's not. It's actually fine. It's well installed. It's just a cleaning thing. But where it relates to Giga Texas, and it also relates to a lot of the equipment that I've been seeing being moved in, specifically some of it to the third floor and a lot of it to the second floor, is they've had to install some pretty robust air filtration systems throughout Giga Texas, mostly because of dust. And that I think that may be something unanticipated, maybe not on the scale that it is at right now, that Tesla has had to adapt to. And they've installed a pretty robust air filtration system now throughout a lot of the factory because of that problem.
Joe, I think you found yourself in a really good spot here because you are watching, of course, Giga Texas come from nothing to
Mm,
now expanding. You watch the production line going along. You now followed along with the Cybertruck production line.
mm,
You're going to be able to follow along with the compact car because he's confirmed it's going to be
mm.
here and it's already been here and you already been tracking that. I think that there's no doubt that the robots are going to be made here as well. So you keep your eye out for any sign or signal
If I see a
that
robot
happens.
leg being moved in, I'll let you know.
Or, you're very good at this stuff. You can see something and you go, that looks, what is that? And then you always do that in your videos. You find things before, you piece it together, right?
Mm.
And then I keep telling you that you need to video the very first car as they come out, because you pointed out where the Cybertrucks will come out and they go park them. You're going to need to be the first one to capture the very first truck that comes out autonomously, like nobody driving it. I guarantee you.
Well, at some point that's probably going to be something that they will try to use, but I don't know if we'll see that immediately. The other
No,
most common thing is when are they going to build a boring tunnel so they can go under the road? And I don't know.
right? What's your plan? So you're still out there every 2 days? What are
I
you
am.
doing?
Right now, I'm going to continue doing that. I don't know. Maybe at some point, maybe I will reduce a little bit of the schedule. I don't. It's hard to say. Each time a major milestone has happened, the common question I get is, "Well, now that that's done, what are you going to show?" Like the
Like I
factory's
said,
built. What are you going to show? And I'm like, "There's always something new."
they're expanding
They're
some more.
expanding the whole site. They're building a
Yeah.
new end of line and outbound lot. They're doing some more grade work on the west. They're putting in a truly enormous multi-level parking garage. I had said early not only that it was going to be built, and but I also said it's probably going to be at least 7 floors. And I had so many people saying, "Nah, they're not going to build it. They're not going to go that high." Well, they're doing it. And
Mhm.
one of the things you had mentioned, talking to the employees that kind of surprised me or it was interesting is almost universally, well, whether it was the lowest level workers,
Yeah.
mid-level managers, whatever, they all said that they learned more about Giga Texas from my
From
videos and
you.
that they've
I know.
heard from the
Yes, yes.
factory.
No, for sure. I've heard the same thing about Sawyer. The exec Martin Vieca says I get all my news from you. um, so okay, so here Giga Texas, and so we heard Elon say that, and Drew Vagnino, no, well they at the last earnings call they said that they're going to expand while they're slowing down Mexico for now. They're going to expand. So, how much of Giga Texas is already built? How much of that are they using at this point, and how much could they
Hmm.
still expand?
Well, I guess I'll start with the main factory itself. If we look at the volume of the factory, we know that they're adding on another 20%. So there's going to be a lot more volume there. And it's either going to be administrative or new production stuff, or they're going to make it administration and then reclaim spaces inside. So I'd say probably the utilization of the factory plus the new thing, the new extension, maybe 60% right now,
There's still got
maybe.
lots of room
So
inside.
there's a lot. On the northwest corner, I had mentioned it previously. They did a lot of rework, removing of steel, adding new steel, new concrete, new mezzanine levels, adding a lot of space to double the size of the 4680 production from
Mhm.
the current 1+3, meaning one operational, three near or maybe now operational lines to 8 by the end of this next year.
Right.
So I think that's significant, and it shows not only are they using space that wasn't used, but they're rebuilding even this new factory inside to add more capacity. And it's not just floor space, but as I mentioned, everything is vertical there. So by adding mezzanine levels and adding other stuff, they're increasing the capacity both vertically and horizontally within the existing
Mhm.
structure. And at the beginning here, I showed you, with that early construction map, and I
Mhm.
just showed you how much of the space has been built out in just the last year and a half, and that is continuing. There's a large field up to the north part of the property. which itself has been getting some permits for future work. But this huge field is still filled with equipment for production that hasn't been installed in the factory yet. And I'm not talking a small thing. I'm talking maybe a quarter of a mile long worth of stuff.
Wow.
So it's not small. They're building the cathode building. They have the die shop. They have the crash test, the wade pit. Also on the east side, where they have all the contractor trailers and the east warehouse and wheels and a bunch of materials, that's not permanent. That's a lot of valuable real estate that will be developed for something at some point in the future. And it's I don't know, probably 800 acres by itself, maybe 700 acres. I mean, it's a lot of space that's currently used by stuff that is not permanent. So
yeah, so you're going to be busy for a long time. They're going to see this expand crazy. This is headquarters. This is their headquarters, right? This is where they are at. So robots are going to be built there. You said the cathode, the 4680s are there. The Model 2 is going to be built there. The Cybertruck, anything else that they would do, or this is it? They're going to expand on these products.
Well, I think it's, my guess, I don't know if it's true, but Giga Texas is playing a role with the Model Y upgrade to some degree. That's going to be coming most likely the end of 2024. It may be, Juniper, I think is what it's called. It may be, some of the stuff may be at Shanghai or whatever, but at some point they're going to have a refreshed Model Y too. So, we're going to.
Why do you say end of 2024? Well. Because some people, surprisingly, Omar is so much more of Omar's blog is so much more optimistic about this. He's just said his reasoning is that once you've launched Model 3 Highland, you don't want to take too long before you standardize all the parts for all of your cars. So he thinks it's Juniper might show up sooner, but he didn't give me a date or anything like that. But you think end of 2024?
I think it's going to be end of 2024. And this is just Joe. Take it for what it's worth. Yeah. Tesla has a lot on their plate right now. Everything from Dojo, FSD, bot. They just did the Cybertruck. They're working on next gen vehicle. They're going to update the Model Y. They're freaking building Giga Texas, and they're going to build Mexico. They're supposed to build Giga Nevada, huge. They're still expanding Giga Berlin. They've got to upgrade somehow Fremont. They have a lot on their plate, and at some point, I think they need to focus on what they're doing to get all of those things done rather than adding more and more stuff. And I think Elon's mentioned that too when they talk about planes and other stuff. At some point he says you've got to say, this is it. We've got to focus on what we're doing.
So back to Model 2, because talking about focus, as an investor, I don't know if you agree with me, the most important thing for them right now is to accelerate the Model 2. In fact, for me, I'd rather them accelerate Model 2 than the Cybertruck. I'm glad the Cybertruck is out, and I certainly want that. It's going to be to become profitable as soon as possible. I'm sure Elon, that's his top priority right now. But the Model 2, and I'm very happy to hear from everything we've heard from him that he's been actively involved with that production line. It's well ahead from what we're thinking of. Between that and the bot, if the bot can be helping with the build, that can, just tremendous value across the board. But Model 2, would you agree with me?
Absolutely. You were talking about should the bot be used in the production line, whatever. The bot is itself its product. It needs to go through a development process. So why would you slow down Model 2 and its production line waiting for
you're still
robot
waiting for
to be good?
Sure.
So I think focusing on the Model 2. And here's my question for you. Do you think it would be better for them to, at some point, officially announce, here's the Model 2, what it looks like and everything, and deliveries start tomorrow? Or should they do like Cybertruck, where 4 years from now, you're going to get it? So what do you think?
There's a debate that was happening on X today, and people said, just don't even announce it. Just here it is, and then launch it. There's no need for announcement. They've already made the announcement, but they're supposed to do a reveal of what it looks like. That's what they've done for every car. They always do the reveal. They should do the reveal of it just before it's available. There's no point at this point.
Because wouldn't it be great if here it is, this is what it does, what it looks like, and you can go on our website now and buy it.
Yeah. So I don't know, Joe, did you see this video? I don't know who made it, but it was an amazing video. they took apart the front of a Model Y,
Okay.
and the guy was showing you how it's assembled. This is the Model Y. This is not, but it's like basically he showed that all the bolts are taken from the top, so it's very easy to assemble, and you just plug and play. Some things you don't even need to bolt down. You just take the part and you just stuff it in, and then it connects so tightly that you don't need to bolt it down. But the point was that a human can go in the middle and attach the parts of the front of the Model Y. And so you can now imagine that a robot could easily replace that human, because it's
Absolutely.
designed for the human can walk inside the frunk area where you can walk in and then connect, drill, and then you got the whole front done.
Right. Well, that's why I was trying to mention on the production line for the Cybertruck that was really important is that by using the subassemblies, the way it was structured, and
Yeah.
just the access, there was no point that a robot had to go in something. They could reach over something or they could come under it or around it, but they never had to, snake their way through. And I think it was really impressive to see that because you could, Elon was talking about how the Cybertruck was so complicated to build and people were like shocked because they're like, well, it was supposed to be easy. I really think he was talking about the production line. So if you can set up everything in a way and design the vehicle in a way that robots can very easily do things and then assemble without having to get inside or thread something through or whatever, it makes the at the end it makes construction of the vehicle simple, but it's really hard to do. And that's what I think he was talking about, not the actual, when you go to the showroom, you see this Cybertruck, what you see there was easy to build because of all of the hard work they did to make the machine that made the machine.
So that makes it easier to build. So I've heard also that the robots are probably being made, the humanoid robots, in Nevada. You can see that the job openings for robots were in Nevada. The production, there was a manager of a production line required. There was a job opening 5-6 months ago, but it was in Nevada. So my point to you is, you got to tell me, you're going to be the first person to find this out. Is the robots being made in Giga Texas? So if you see any signs, call me.
I've not. I don't know. But
Number two, you might see a delivery. You might see a box land at a shipping.
Like I say, if I have a leg sticking out, I'll know what it is. But if you compare to FSD, they do all the FSD building out in California, the software and everything. But that doesn't mean that they have to build the computers there. They can build anywhere. The cars are built anywhere. So same thing with the bot. They could do the brains somewhere, but they could build the machinery somewhere else. And so maybe it'll show up. I don't know.
Okay, well, you have to be the first person to find out. Okay, keep your eye out.
Well, if I see a permit for the bot factory, I'll let you know.
Oh, this is exciting. So Model 2 is coming out. You're right in. And so the fact that it's, or sounds like it, they're well ahead, just the words he was using, you're going to see more activity very soon. You're going to see more activity
Who knows? Maybe,
very soon.
I don't know if I'll see one driving around in the next few months,
Right.
but,
well, if you saw Giga castings, you would know if it's Model 2 versus Model Y versus Cybertruck, right?
I'm pretty sure you definitely can tell. What they were doing with the Cybertruck castings for a short period of time is they were shipping them in containers, but the labels on the containers were
I saw that. I saw that photo.
See that.
You're the best. You're the best, folks. If you're not following Joe's YouTube, like, you really do break news. I mean, I saw that the crates, and then you zoomed into the label.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes people say that they position stuff out for me to find, and
I believe it.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
I believe it. They're using you, Joe. You're their marketing dude.
I will say that the relationship that we've had between the drone pilots and Tesla, certainly at Giga Texas, has been second to none. It's been just absolutely amazing. I find it obviously just very great that they have that trust in me. They've actually told me that they value the relationship as well, which is just amazing. even at Cybertruck delivery events, talking to some of the employees, some of the managers say that they use mine and Brad's or sometimes Jeff's videos in their weekly meetings, because they can see stuff. And the security uses the videos too because they can see parts of the factory that they don't normally see. So it's really a great relationship that has been built up over the last 3.5 years.
Well, because you are a stand-up guy and you've got a lot of honor, integrity. Blink twice if you know something that you're not supposed to say. You found out something, you're not supposed to say something. Come on.
How's that?
Call me. I'm just kidding.
Sure,
But
no
thank you so much, Joe. You are awesome. I love your videos. People should check you out if they're not already, because you just saw in this video here, your knowledge is amazing. And it goes beyond just the outside factory. You understand the process, the production line. I do. After Sandy Monroe, I'll go to you and find out.
Well, Sandy has actually used my videos before, so.
You got, and then, so you don't need to go to Giga Mexico, but if you do, you need to find somebody there to help you.
Well, actually, we do. Adrian lives down there, and he's taking on the mantle, and he produces videos periodically as well. So hopefully soon he'll have something beyond just hills and highways to be able to show us.
Right, because at some point, Elon will turn around and say, we don't need to slow down anymore. Maybe he'll feel confident about the economy or something. But when you see that happen, let us know, right?
I hope so.
It's going to happen. Thank you, Joe. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.